This week, Hamas agrees to disarm. But Hamas and Israel don't even agree on the order it happens in. 67 people are dead after one of the largest single-day border crossings Europe has seen in years. And the global economy is splitting into two completely different stories. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Global Brief News. Every Monday, we lay out the stories that'll matter this week, then go deeper on each one as the week goes on. Here's what's on deck. That's 5 stories, 1 week. Tuesday, the Gaza Disarmament deal in full. Wednesday, the real story behind Ceuta. Thursday, the 2-speed global economy. Friday, something out of southern Lebanon you probably haven't seen elsewhere. Sunday, we wrap it all up. Let's start in Gaza. On Thursday, President Trump announced what he's calling a historic breakthrough. The agreement calls for Hamas and other armed groups in Gaza to fully disarm, marking a major policy shift. It's the next phase of his 20-point peace plan, brokered with Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey through what's called the Board of Peace. Here's the basic shape. A national committee, backed by an international stabilization force, would oversee the process. Here's the basic shape of it. A national committee, backed by an international stabilization force, would oversee Hamas handing over and storing its weapons, with international monitors verifying the process. As that happens, Israeli forces are supposed to gradually withdraw, and a new Palestinian police force takes over security. The precise roadmap for this transition is due within 14 days. While it sounds simple, it isn't. A senior Hamas official told Al Jazeera that Hamas won't move on disarmament until Israel withdraws first, which is close to the opposite order Trump described. This is close to the absolute opposite order of what President Trump described in his initial announcement. Israeli officials are reportedly skeptical Hamas will actually give up its weapons at all. And Palestinian Islamic Jihad says the current deal doesn't reflect what it actually agreed to in negotiations. So, a real diplomatic step, but with the sequencing already in dispute before it's even started. Full breakdown tomorrow. Next, we turn to a major humanitarian and political crisis unfolding at the border between Morocco and Spain. Last week, between 50 and 60,000 people crossed from Morocco into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta. Next, Spain. Between Thursday and Friday last week, somewhere between 50 and 60,000 people crossed from Morocco into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta, by land and by sea, in one of the largest single mass crossings Europe has recorded. The death toll has climbed to at least 67, some from drowning, others in a crush trying to climb a breakwater barrier. Spain's prime minister is calling it a violation of national sovereignty. Morocco doesn't recognize Spain's claim to Ceuta in the first place, and some analysts are asking whether authorities there did enough to stop the surge. Spain's prime minister is calling the event a violation of national sovereignty as tension between the nations rises. Morocco doesn't recognize Spain's claim to Ceuta in the first place, and some analysts are asking whether authorities there did enough to stop the surge. Part of what triggered it, reportedly, was misinformation spreading online about a Spanish court ruling, layered on top of real economic desperation. Roughly 1 in 4 young Moroccans aren't in school, training, or a job. This was layered on top of real economic desperation. Roughly 1 in 4 young Moroccans aren't in school, training, or a job. The EU's response has already become its own story. Spain's leader has publicly called some member states' reaction selfish. Spain's leader has publicly called some member states' reaction selfish. We're going deep on this Wednesday, including why this keeps happening at this specific volatile border. And then there is the economy, which right now is really 2 different economies depending on where you live. The IMF's latest outlook puts global growth around 3% this year. But that number hides a split. Countries that import a lot of energy are getting squeezed by war-related shocks, while countries plugged into the AI boom are seeing real lift. Countries importing energy are getting squeezed by war-related shocks, while those plugged into AI are seeing lift. These energy importers face a significant headwind as global conflicts continue to disrupt traditional trade flows. Conversely, economies that have integrated AI are seeing real gains in productivity and overall market value. At the same time, bond yields are climbing in the US and Europe, usually a sign investors are bracing for stickier inflation or higher rates for longer. This is usually a sign investors are bracing for stickier inflation or higher interest rates for even longer. And this Friday, the July jobs report drops in the US, following a weak June that left many markets cautious. If it disappoints again, expect markets to react. We break down what a two-speed global economy actually means for you on Thursday. That's 5 stories, 1 week. Tuesday, we cover the Gaza Disarmament deal in full detail. Wednesday is the real story behind Ceuta. Thursday, the two-speed global economy and its impacts. On Friday, we have something out of southern Lebanon you probably haven't seen elsewhere. Sunday, we wrap it all up. If you want the full picture of what's happening in the world, not just headlines, hit subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. We are Global Brief News, beyond the headlines. Thanks for watching.